for myself for a long time, I interpreted the word ignorance when applied to self as being demeaning, like I was either stupid or not very bright, or and that was just a conceptual idea I had of that word, But if you actually just alter it ever so slightly, ignorance or ignore essence, and that's what we do. We completely ignore that essence, and as a so-called human being, the only tools that we have to recognize that essence, if you like, is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And then there's the sixth one, which is thinking. But we don't get that instrument is actually another sense organ. We've learnt to identify with whatever it is that rattles on between our ears. So all of our attention gets normally focused on one sense organ, which is the thinking. Now I can't choose to smell or not smell. It's just there. I can't choose to see or not see. It's just there. Hear or not hear. I can't. There's no choice over that. Those things are there and just happen. And it's the same over this instrument that we've got here. And all of our attention gets placed on this at the expense of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. We ignore that. Like we really do ignore it. For those five senses to be absolutely and completely wide open all at the one time, you're absolutely present. Can't be anywhere else. And it's so amazing, but we just don't go there. We've all of our attention is focused in here on this one sensory organ, and then there's this built-up imagined identity that gets created in here, that I am. There's a person here, and from my own experience with that, what I failed to see for a very, very, very long time, was that because I was aware, because I could see things, so I was grasping this on an intellectual level, because I could see stuff just happens. I could see that. Intellectually, I could see that, I could see that thoughts just come and go. I could see I can't stop them. If I could, I would, I can't stop them, So just, stuff is just happening, There's a feeling may come up, I'm aware that there's a feeling there, or there's an energy in the body, if I'm not going to label it, because after all, I'm a good non-dualist. I'm not going to label that, But the one thing I failed to see for a very, very long time was that there was still me sitting there claiming ownership of being aware. It was still there. That's what was keeping me stuck, if you like.
See, it's my problem too.
Yeah. So what I came to see was exactly that, and it's so simple. It was really so simple. So there's an identity here that sits really, really, really close. I don't know how else to explain this, but it sits really, really close. And we don't recognize it, and we don't see it. Even though we've come now, if you like, to see that thoughts just come and go, and there can be a nightmare in there, or there can be good times in there, or whatever the case may be. We can see that. We don't take the investigation of the me any further than that. Any further than, okay, thoughts come and go, that's why I get affected. Who gets affected? What gets affected? With that understanding, which is, that needs to be seen, absolutely. But there's still an entity here which is so close that we wear it.
Yeah.
We can't see it. We really can't see it. It's just like when we first come into this. Yeah? It can take a while to get a gap, or even, if you like, some separation or awareness around the fact that thinking happens, and it just happens. And after a while, you kind of get a bit of a gap between that's aware of the thinking that happens, instead of like wearing everything that goes on in our head. Yeah, so that happens. Then there needs to be a gap that gets created. You need to go looking for that I that's sitting there, that me that's sitting there, claiming ownership of that presence, claiming ownership of that awareness, claiming ownership of that aliveness, because that's all that's happening. Yeah, and that needs to be looked at. That's when the real search happens. See, everything prior to that is coming to understand and see what we're not. It really is. Yeah? Okay. I'm not all that stuff that used to rattle around in my head. Yeah? And I'm not doing it. It's just a passing show that just floats through awareness, if you like. Yeah? So that, I just saw that. And I didn't do anything. It just dawned. I just saw that was indeed what was happening. Yeah? Hang on, this is still, like I would say, look, I totally get all this. From an intellectual perspective, I absolutely, totally get all this. And now I don't know where else to go, because the truth is, I get it all, but I still feel like I'm here. I still feel like there's a me here. Where the hell do I go? Like, I don't know where to go with that, you know. And that's because it was sitting so close, and I didn't realise that what was actually happening was, when I started to become aware of thoughts and I started to become aware of stuff that was just happening, I claimed ownership of that awareness. That was me that was aware of thoughts, or that was me that was aware of stuff that is now just happening and just occurring and spontaneously popping into existence, etc. Yeah? So that had to be found. Like, what is that? What is that? Yeah? Is it something? Does it have substance? Is it an actual thing? What is it? You know, or does, yeah, because the thought would come up. Yep, I'm aware. Yeah, I can see my thinking. That was just a thought that came out. You know, and what gives us, or what creates this so-called self-identity is nothing but thoughts, and only that. Like literally, only that. So what
from there, it goes to the head and controls the senses. And
it thinks it does.
That makes it so hard then to.
It thinks it does. It doesn't actually do anything. It can't do anything. It can't create anything. Can't stop anything. Can't manifest anything. It can't do anything. It's not. It's not a thing. It's just a thought that floats through. That's what Bob was saying. You know, can you quench your thirst with the word water? No. Does the word fire burn your mouth? No. Yeah. They're just floating descriptions that float through, and that's all that is it's describing something in word, just in a word. And the problem is we take the description to be the actual, and then because we take the description to be the actual, we become it. And the description might be, I feel stuck, I feel like I'm still here. Yeah, and with that, I'm still here. With that, because we believe that, and it's only ever a passing phenomena. It's only ever words and sentences that flow through, or images that flow through, and then we'll even give descriptions to the images that float through our head. Oh my God, They're just images. They're not even real. They're not a real substantial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, what I first started with is ignoring our essence. Totally and completely, we ignore that.
Yeah.
You know, the capacity to have the five senses, even the sixth, yeah, when that becomes vacant, if you like, the capacity to have all of those senses wide open at once can't be done by a me. Can't be experienced, rather, by a me.
Yeah.
It can focus on one at a time. And that's about it. That's all it can do. And that's why we miss this essence, is because we're trying to grab it, or we're trying to understand it with the concept of a false construct, of a me.
Yeah.
There. Yep. In the absence of me, when duality completely drops and stops, there is only absolute essence. And in that absolute essence, because it's not split, it's non-dual, yeah, everything opens. That is often referred to as awakening, being awake. But see, when the me, or the intellect, gets hold of that, because it can only focus on one sense organ at a time, it kind of runs through it, goes, yeah, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm tasting, yep, I'm touching, I'm smelling, big deal.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Mm.
Yep. So? But it can't experience all of them being wide open at the one time.
Yeah.
It can't.
No human can.
No.
Mm.
Well, no me can.
Yeah.
Yeah? It can't. Yeah?
Mm.
Or no thought can. Or no imagined me can. But in the absence of the me, in the complete absence of the me construct, it all opens. It all opens. So I just saw that. I just saw that this last little vestige of meanness, if you like. I saw the very, very last thing that it was hanging on to. And it was the last thing it was hanging on to. And everything else that the conceptual Terry was hanging on to prior to that last little bit, everything that was hanging on to wasn't real.
Yeah.
It was a concept, it was an idea, it was a belief, it was a judgment, it was a whatever. None of that was real. And the reason I got so terribly stuck at that end point was because the last thing it was hanging on to is real. And it interprets that as, if me goes, I'm going to die. Why? Because me absolutely believes it's this essence, it's this life force.
Yeah.
And there's the block. And that's why fear often comes up. When you get really on that razor edge, when you get really, really close, we kind of, we don't really want to go there. And people often express it. I expressed it. But what will become of me? How will I live? How will I function? Will I recognize people? Will I know people? I had no idea what the actual experience was going to be, what it was actually going to be like. Yeah? So the very last thing that it hangs on to is, I am aware. I am seeing. I am present. And it's not the eyes seeing or presence or hearing, knowing. The eye doesn't own it, or the me doesn't own it at all. It's just an idea or a belief that me is owning that sense of awareness, present. After all, I'm present. I'm aware. Yeah. Whereas the truth is, there's just presence, and there's just awareness, and there's just seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and all of that goes on without the me. It all goes on without the me. The me steps in and goes, this is mine. This is my presence. This is my awareness. This is my aliveness. This is my beingness. The last thing that it clings on to, because intellectually it can go, yep, I get all this. I see it.
Intellectually it's easy, but
Mm.
in actual living this, it's the most subtle, complicated, or not complicated, but most subtle and difficult thing to look totally through, like you look through it, you know.
Mm. So maybe look there.
Mm.
But to look
Yeah.
there, what I had to do was the same thing that I did when I first got involved in this. I first had to become aware that thoughts just happen.
Mm.
I'm not responsible for them. It just happens. There's a show that goes on in here, or wherever it goes on, yeah, and it just happens all by itself. And it took a while to see that and accept it.
Mm.
But in the seeing of it, you absolutely accept it. In the seeing of it, you accept it.
Yeah.
You don't kind of accept it and kind of go along and hope that it's going to make sense. In the seeing of it, the acceptance comes because it's your seeing, it's your awareness, it becomes your truth. So the same thing has to apply to that me, that identity that is now sitting there claiming ownership of being here. This is mine. This is my awareness. After all, it's me that's now become aware of thoughts that come and go. You see that trap?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do is go looking for that. Go looking for that last vestige of an
Yeah.
identity that's sitting there. Go looking for that, just like you did at the beginning, when you just started to, when someone said to you, you're not responsible for your thinking. Like when somebody said that to me, I said, you're an idiot. What do you mean? If I have to be responsible for my thinking, yeah. But on investigation, you see you're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's go looking. That's really when you kind of get that close. That's when the search really happens.
Mm.
It-
Yeah, I can feel it.
yeah, that's when the search really. Prior to
Yeah.
that, all we're doing is just coming to understand what we're not.
Mm.
Well, that was my experience anyway. It can be different for others, but that was my experience, you know, and that was kind of the road that Bob took me down. Yeah,
Mm.
come to understand what you're not. Are you this? Are you that? Are you doing this? Is there blah blah blah? Yeah, and I came to see, yeah, look, I'm not any of that. But that last little look,
Yeah.
like really now, really look. And if you just go to, who is that? What is that? Where is that? And all of your attention is there. That's the only thought that will come up. Who is that? And it gets quiet. Really gets
Yeah.
quite quiet. Yeah. What is that? Already it starts to quieten down. Just purely on that investigation, mind starts to quieten right down. Yeah. Go looking for that and see what you find.